So, talking on governing, governing information security. That's what we'll be discussing about today. So, learning objective is organization structure, which will be explained. Also, describe how to recognize role and responsibility. Also, discuss about understanding strategic planning. And also discuss what IT security policies are, and then we also discuss awareness of compliance and risk management. Those are the areas we are going to be discussing today. So we are talking of the governance which have been described or explained and defined in last class, which is to define a particular process of initiating and maintaining what a particular framework and supporting the management structures. So that is what governance. When we are talking of a process step by step of managing, like maintaining it, initiating it, like in deployment, implementing it, process of deployment, process of implementation of a particular framework for information security, and the supporting the management structure, the foundation we have laid down for maintenance, managing it. So that is all governance is. Is defined as the process of initiating and maintaining a framework and supporting the management structure. That is what governance is. The governance can be in terms of information security, IT infrastructure, and so on and so forth like that. So let's move to this. Now, this is the organizational structures. When we're talking of organizational structures, we are talking about this specified task allocation, which is allocating tasks to uh, assign individual in the organizations, coordination, how to coordinate them, and then the supervision to achieve its goal. To achieve the goal of governance is here we talk about allocation of tasks and coordinations and supervision of tasks, and then allocating these tasks to individuals. So individual gets to know about the organization and its environment through established organizational structure. Here you'll be aware of the structure of the organization, the tasks you will be assigned to, and coordination and supervisor of your supervisor. Like maybe when you are employed to an organization, you'll be assigned your supervisors, assign many words, assign supervisor, team lead, who you are working with, and so forth. That's the function of what organizational structure. Or with the aid of organizational structure, it will help you what to know that the board of directors is primarily responsible for organizational governance. And then organizational governance include the management and control of information security risk. They are in charge, the board of directors are the one that are in charge of the governance, the organizational governance. Now, talking of the organizational governance, which is the managing and controlling, they are the one that directs, instructs, like they are the one that what manage everything and control anything related to information risk, information management, and so forth. So, security committee we also have security committee headed by the chief security officer, CSO. He was one that he is in charge of coordination of security activities in the entire organization. Everybody in the organization reports to what to chief security officer, and is the one that head the what security committee, be the one in charge of what security committee, and also and then is also in charge of implementation of appropriate policies to support security goals and to support security goals which are implemented by what the security committee. Any policy that will be created will be the one to authorize it, to sign it, to approve it. It's also the duty of what of secure of chief security officer, which headed what, which is the what team lead, which headed security committee. Role and responsibility. When we are talking of role and responsibility, in an organization which wide effort and input is needed to maintain a secure environment. When you are talking of this, you are talking about a big organization which you have to make sure that you have to maintain every step in the secure everything you are doing to secure the information system, and then that is where role and responsibility will be assigned, and this will help in decision making and commitment. And then you also help in distributing governance model, still watching the responsibility on the enterprises. So that is what role and responsibility is all about. Now, participation of stakeholders, decision makers, and users is needed for efficient security also. All these things are required. Now, let's talk about information security management. This is the process. Information security management processes give certain results that are listed as follows. Number one, it helps with successful risk management and supervising and mitigation. With the help of what information security management, you'll be able what to successfully what to manage risk management, supervising and mitigation. And number two, it also helps in successfully and systematic use of security knowledge and infrastructure. And then number three is alignment of information security with administrative strategy and educational target. It also help in that aspect. And the number four, last but not least, regular metrics, monitoring and reporting of governance measures to meet what they do. With the help of this, it will also help us in what monitoring and reporting governance measures so that we can acquire so that we can achieve the goal of what information security. Now, these are the important activities of governance, which we will be discussing one after the other. The number one here is to allocate security roles and responsibility to coordinate and evaluate the security implementation. Here we are talking about assigning, allocating tasks, role as a person, as a staff, or one of the staff, based on your knowledge, based on your contract agreement in the employment role, there be a what you will assign roles and responsibility so that you will be able to like to supervise, to coordinate, and to also evaluate the process depending on your area of specialization. You'll be able what, to evaluate the security implementation, supervise it, and monitor it. Number two, also delegate responsibility to monitor information security trend and risk and issue regularly. All these people they work in threat intelligence. They monitor information security trends, threat, risk on each system that is going across the globe. And we also have established responsibility for information assets by identifying assets, assigning owner to them, and authorizing them to take decisions about security implementation. What we're talking of here, this is where we are going to establish responsibility for information assets. What is the responsibility? So responsibility of this asset, and this asset. Oh, this asset is for database. This asset is for what? Is for file system. This asset is for the controller. This and that. And who are going to be using them? Who are going to be what? Doing security, the people that will do the security implementation and the rest. And also have develop information security policy according to the jurisdiction needs and regulations of need. We are talking about this angle, which is what creating policy that was that will fit to the jurisdiction needs based on the location where your company is, that you are operating your businesses. The jurisdiction is what is different, and the regulations also work based on those regulations. Policy has to be created to make sure that According policy has to be created to support the governance activities. And then number five, develop, develop and communicate and maintain security policy to show support and commitment to information security. Here, when we are talking about communicate and maintain, here, once after the development of this policy, we communicate by training staff, by creating awareness. Sometimes we use signposts. Here, this particular room is no go area. So all those kind of things we need to communicate it by different sides. We can create a security awareness training for the staff to communicate it and maintain, which is what enforce it, enforcing so that everybody was we know what we not be able what we so that everybody will adhere to this policy, will follow this policy, enforcing it. If non compliance what will lead to termination of contracts, termination of staff, this and that, or reduction of salary, this and that. So those are, and we have number six also, which is to evaluate risk by identifying, quantifying, and prioritizing information risk against rule regarding risk acceptance with impact consequences. We also have it's also tackle information risk by documenting treatment method with respect to risk acceptance criteria from management. Here is documenting treatment approach. Maybe there is an incident based on our based on the kind of risk we accept. We know these are the kind of attack, these are the kind of attack vector we are expecting, and this is the method of treating them if they occur. These are the method of what mitigating them in case of the likelihood and probability of them occurring come into place. And we also have number eight, which is to choose and implement suitable control to make sure that risks are mitigated to acceptable level, to the minimum acceptable level. We have to choose the kind of framework that will work best for us, and we make sure that the kind of acceptable level, the minimum security level that is required, has to be met. Choosing them and implementing them. And we also have administer information security with third parties by evaluating risk to determine security implication and control it. Administering information security with third parties. Maybe you have other companies that are working with you. You have to administer this kind of information security by evaluating the risk to determine security implication and control need for the third party organizations. We also have explained the control to be used in an agreement between enterprise jurisdiction and also third party. Here, when you are bringing third parties to come and help you to manage some aspect of your business operation or information system and so forth, now there has to be explained documentation agreement. Oh, these are the rules and law for the usage and maintaining and all black and blue concerning what our uh, our information system. So that's for that. Now, maturity model. Now, when we're talking of maturity model, this is how the model mature as the process becomes clearer to us each step. When we're talking of maturity model, we're talking of when after being implementation, how is being what, aware, how we use it, that is being clear to everybody, how we make sure that this thing is being clear to everybody as we are using it day after day. Now, number one is initial stage. The tasks performed are listed as follows. Now, when we are talking of the initial stage, this is where every task which is being performed has to be what listed. Number one, the senior management is aware of a need of security governance. They have to be aware. And number two, communication about the need is not clear and consistent. And then we also have governance is discussed as a reaction to issues or requests from upper management, which afterwards to be in concern also. And we also have communication to stakeholders is not consistent and it's a reaction to also issue. Due to all this have to be in place, and also have repeatable. When we are talking of this aspect, we are talking an improvement from the initial step. These tasks performed in the next step are as follows. These are the tasks that have to be performed in this repeatable. The city management is aware of the need for security governance and risk management, which we have informed them in the what in the first stage, which is the initial stage. Upper management and IT supervisors understand the need for what for information security. We have to what understand that this is are needed, so we have to what implement it. And then communication about the need is also what clear and consistent. It has to be clear the purpose why we need it. I also have stakeholders are made aware of security policy on a timely basis. Every security policy which is being implemented has to be what communicated to the stakeholders, and risk to information are communicated informally also. Every to every to staff that are needed to be aware of this. So risk related to the information system have to be communicated either to the stakeholder or to the board or to the chief security officer and so forth. And risk management needs and security governance are communicated to third party informally also. Every third party has to be informed that well, LUCO risk management, this is how we manage our risk here. This is what to be to us to manage our risk, and the security governance are also needs to be communicated to other third parties informally. Now let's talk about divine. Here, when we are talking of divine, we have to define IT personnel we have to make sure that IT personnel understand the need for security governance and risk. Those that are doing the task, those that are doing the work, needs to understand that this is the what's need for security governance and risk management. This is why we need it. So it has to what to be communicated. We also have the source are committed by upper management to implement the good information security governance and risk management procedure. The resources have to be committed, like giving access to resources have to the approval has to come from the upper management. This is here, this is what here is talking about, so that we will be able to implement good or standard information security governance and also the risk management procedures. And the IT executive, IT staff, and top management has to discuss security governance and risk management periodically. We have to discuss this, why we need it, how we are going to implement it, and so forth like that. All these things have to be discussed periodically. And then risk management also needs and security governance are also communicated to users and stakeholders periodically and in a what formal way. All these things have to be defined. Both users and stakeholders have to be aware. And risk management and security governance needed, like the way we need it, has to be communicated to them periodically also. How we can manage, maybe after being implemented, how this is how we can manage it, this is what we can do, this is what we can do. This is what this is why we need it, this is how we have to implement it for the security of the business operation and so forth. Now let's talk about manage. We are talking about maturity model. Now, before what I've been explaining, before it gets to the maturity model, it's step by step. When we give birth to a child, before he has to grow before he become a mature lady or a mature man. Are you with me? So those are the things we have to feed the baby. We have to clothe him or her, bath him or her, and so forth before she will grow or he will grow till he gets to maturity level. This is what here is talking about. Those are the things you have to put in place so that before this model that is being implemented, the governance model, the risk management model, which is being or framework which is being implemented, see if you get to the maturity model. Now we have number 4, which is manage. The senior management, IT staff, and leadership have a complete understanding of the information security governance and risk management. They must understand in total both the look and feeling of this uh, so information security governance and risk management. They must understand both the senior management, IT staffs, the staff that are working, that are in charge, and the IT leadership, the leaders like the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, and risk manager, and so forth. Those senior IT leadership, they have to be aware of this. And then a formal communication is periodically provided to stakeholder also about information risk and the policies. This have to be also be implemented also. You have to communicate with them, with stakeholders, periodically concerning the risk and the policy which is being implemented to mitigate such risk or things that are put in place, infrastructure put in place to mitigate them periodically. And then responsibility are communicated formally and periodically to third parties about security governance and risk management. Other third parties have to work to be made aware, to formally inform them, periodically communicate with them. This is your responsibility in making sure in the security governance and the risk management. This is your part. This is your role to play. This is what you need to do. This is not. This is what. This is the do and the don't. Are you with me? So we have to communicate with them periodically also. So before the framework gets to work to maturity model. The last but not the least is optimize. Here, when we're talking of optimize, this is where we inform the senior management, IT staff, and IT leadership have a more advanced and futuristic understanding, information security governance, and the risk of management. This is where we have to make sure that they know the futuristic understanding, the future purpose, the future goal to achieve by implementing this what governance and the risk what management. Like we need it. You need to understand the future aim that we're trying to achieve. We also have thorough understanding of information risk and risk management. Thorough understanding of what information what risk. They have to understand step by step the procedures of this was information risk and the risk management has to be seen in the entire world jurisdiction. In every angle, it has to be seen, has to be understand. And we also have formal and proactive communication is also what provided. Proactive also provided periodically to either the stakeholders about the information system risk and the risk management. They also proactively, we are talking of actively which means instantly, immediately afterwards, in any changes afterwards, we have to make them know. Now let's talk about CIO, Chief Information Officer, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, also our practitioner guys roles. We have to discuss their role in this angle also. Now, introduction, the CIO, CISO, and practitioner guidance roles. Now, understanding the role in the company is very important in planning, implementing, and administering IT security governance. Understanding your role as a CISO, CIO, or practitioner guidance in the organization is very worth implementing. This will help in planning the governance, the risk management, the security governance, the risk management, and implementing it, and also administering it. The personnel has the duty to promote security governance enterprise wide also. They have to what? They have to promote it. The personnel they must make sure they promote it. Is their primary duties to promote security governance in the world in enterprise. Why everybody that is concerned has to be what is their duty to promote it. Now, stakeholders need to have confidence in the organization information protection. Privacy and identity of asset has to work, the stakeholders have to work to be aware of that. And after identification of stakeholders, CIO and CISO have to understand expectation of them regarding the IT security officer. When after they after they have known all this, now we expect them to what? Uh, so by the end of by after that we are expecting them to have understanding and the expectation we are expecting on this set of people. Now let's talk about the structure, the security governance. We have the input and the output. We also have the key principles. We also have the roles and responsibility and the activities you have to perform on a daily basis. On a what it is the structure. Uh, Using industrial best practice in security, such as ISO 27001, for what? For metrics and performance, it is suggested to use a top-down method as shown in the figure. This, as shown here, is addressable from the stakeholders. See, this is the recommendation approach from stakeholders to supply chain, and then from the supply chain to the enterprise, from the enterprise to the business process, from the business process to IT and IT processor. Now, this is the existing approach. Why this is the this is the what from the what highest part from the stakeholder to the lower part. IT and IT processor, those are the main staff that operates. And the business processor, with the help of the IT, we are able to process our business basically. We need IT infrastructure like the internet services, system, and the rest. Those people that manage this IT infrastructure are the IT guys. Why the staff that run the business processes need all this for IT infrastructure to run the company or organization to the enterprise, to the supply chain, to the stakeholders. Now, let's talk about computer security is the responsibility of everyone who can influence the security of a computer system. In any organization, different officials from different groups are usually involved with security. Now, these are the roles that we have. We have the upper management, we have the application owner slash program slash manager, program manager, functions, functional managers also. We also have computer system security management. These are the roles we have on board, people that will be managing them. We also have infrastructure slash technology provider also. We also have role for this and then supporting organization and the user. These are the role we have in the computer security. And then we also have these are the tasks and functions of groups. Task functions slash group is the example task and the manager slash owner in the role owner by respective task as shown in this table. In this table, these are the words manager and owner and the group tasks and functions. And let's talk about the personnel manager. Let's talk about the personnel manager. We are talking of the personnel manager. These are the applications for personnel or system, for personal system. In the organization where application will be distributed from freelance throughout the enterprise. So the personnel manager is the owner, is the one in charge of the system. Also have benefit program works manager in the federal benefit system, giving care to citizen processing done on the system in the data center also. Now I also have mainframe director also. This is a mainframe data processing company. This supports legal applications. We also have the divisional director, which is a group where very kinds of PC workstation are used for office support, internet connectivity, and computer oriented research. These are the respective roles and their taxes. These are the roles that we have and their what taxes. for computer security practitioner guidance. Now, let's look at supporting functions. There are supporting functions like audits, lab audits. When we're talking of audits, these are the senior staff, senior third party that audit the network activities, the information system activities. They monitor the policy, they come to audit it to check it. Maybe everybody is in compliance with what with the governance and the what and the policies. We also have physical security. When we are talking of security, it's making sure the perimeter security, fencing, using barbed wire, security personnel, physical security personnel at the door, and so forth like that. We also have accrediting officials also. We also have our contingency planner and disaster recovery staff. Those people that are incident responders, they are the ones that make sure that after disaster, they make sure that everything is being recovered based on the plan that has been laid before this disaster occurred. We also have quality assurance to make sure that everything is of quality. The process, the implementation, and the rest is of quality. We also have procurement. This when we are talking of procurement, this is to make sure that every devices, the infrastructure system, and software that are needed are procured for procurement. We also have training officer, people that train or staff, senior staff that are trained either in the policy or the security awareness. We also have personnel also. We also have risk management or planning staff. These are people that plan and then they make sure that managing risk also that is a threat to the organization. We also have physical plants also, and we also have users. Now let's talk about strategic planning. Now strategic planning are developed to reduce the gap between current and desired capabilities, considering environmental limitation and threats. That is what strategy strategic planning. The focus, the reason why we need strategic planning is to make sure that to reduce the gap in our information security governance and policies, to bridge the gap, to reduce the limitation of threats, to reduce what threat limitation, to mitigate it. And then here is allocation of business objective depend on the what on security that is to be what implemented. Depending on the business, we determine the kind of important step we have to take to strategize our planning. So information security strategy is a plan to what to mitigate risk. We also have now this strategic approach. We have standard policy and procedure. We have technology design, resources allocation, training, and testing. Here, this is strategic approach which will be discussed next. Now we are starting with a strategic plan. Now, for strategic plan to be effective, it needs to avoid stumbling from crisis to crisis and have a long-term work vision. Like the tolerance must be what long time. The first step is to start with the business overall plan. And number two is to always perform risk evaluation. Number three is to establish measurable goals. Number four is to recognize the fact that there is no right time frame, and also it has to be what flexible. The strategic planning has to be flexible. Now, the standard and policy procedure. You have to follow standard policies and procedures. And technology design, you have to design both the hardware part, software part, and the everything has to work to be designed. The process and the procedure of how we are going to do it, the algorithm, everything we are going to be using, everything needed has to work to be designed. And resource allocations, resource has to be allocated based on what to be designed and training, which is staff need to be trained on the what on this strategic that has been what implemented. And testing, you have to test this, maybe if you work based for the goal that is being was due to because of the goal, which is now. Let's talk about security functions. The essence of security strategy is defined by an organization definition or scope of its security function. When we are trying to what to define the security strategy, it is based on the scope of the security function for that organization to determine how we are going to decide, how we are going to define it. Like the security function must be defined by business target and goal. What is your business target? What is your business goal? To determine how we are going to define security strategies. Now, strategic businesses objectives are very basic and most important. Level of goal is a strategic business objective. These are what basic and most important level of goal in an enterprise, and the objective related to the success of the organization and all related stakeholders at a conceptual level. The objective of business afterwards is the goal, is the target. For us to meet it, we have to what it's something that is very crucial to the business, to the organization, and so forth like that. So that's for the strategic business objective. Now, objective become more illustrative and detailed once evaluated. And these are the objectives we'll be discussing about, which is one, to reduce cost by efficiency gain. You know, the goal of an enterprise of an organization is to minimize what cost and maximize profit, right? That's a goal. And then number two, to reduce probably cost by risk of mitigation. What can like to reduce the probability of cost, and then protect assets also protect assets to make sure that all our assets are in safe hands, and then create opportunity for enhanced earning by creating customer products and services. This is done by creating competitive advantage and also by extending customer base also. We also have number five, which is to enhance or maintain reputation in the marketplace. If there is any breach, this will pose a risk to your work, to your organizations. It will pose a risk to your organizations. And then we also have reduced time to market. And we also have advertise and channel the management. Like we have to make our products to be up to be known, advertise this, and then to that public channel. And also manage and this management also. Now, business objectives are established through a range of business strategies, and they are differ between organizations. The objective of business are different, even though your competitors' objectives are different from your own objectives. Now, number one is to establish infrastructure to provide extendable customer function. You have to do this, you have to establish the infrastructure that is needed so that customers so that customer functions can be what extended. And number two, to outsource to achieve cost reduction and flexibility. If you outsource some part of your business operation, this can reduce the cost and flexibility. Now, when we are talking about what maybe you bring in an IT service company to come and help you what to manage your business affairs, come and help you to manage it, come and help you to manage the IT infrastructure of your organization. So this also we have. Now we have methods. Let's talk about methodology. You can discuss a couple of methods for determining strategy security objectives. Method one, security objectives come under the umbrella of business objectives and are achieved by applying security functions. And the analysis of potential of every business objectives is needed to determine security objectives. And also have method two, which was start with security functions, create a plan/scenario showing probable impact to the organization. if the security phase. This has to work to be in place. If there's any probability or likelihood, what will be the impact if there's what failure in the security you have to implement. And then this is the opposite of estimate program, where it starts with business objective and recognize the security functions where security functions impact them. So that is for the two methods we have in security strategic planning objectives. Now let's talk about IT security policy here. Now, when we are talking of IT security policy, we are talking is is an important property of any security policy. The security IT security policy is an important asset of the world of any security policy that they are policy are they are that they are geez, sorry like precise indication of an organization security strategy. It is a what? It is a kind of very important and tangible of the organization security asset. This they give actual and obtainable security target. This what specify the kind of security targets you have to meet, and the security policy have to be a custom document that indicate the company environment and culture while meeting security need also. One, the main objective that the security policy has to achieve. The objective to achieve is to allow confidentiality and privacy of company information. You know, that's a goal of information security. And number two is to provide protection for integrity of information to make sure that there's no modification to protect that angle. And then the last one but not the least is to provide availability of information. To make sure that all this information system are available at any time which is being needed. Now, necessities of security policy. Why do we need it? Number one, security policy show upper management allegiance to maintaining a secure network, allowing IT staff to secure company information assets. We also have security policy provide legal protection to companies. This is a very well straightforward. It provide what protection, legal protection, so that you not chop fine to avoid fine. We also have security policy are needed by external parties that do business with companies for due diligence also. You need to also understand your policy, the third party you are bringing in, or source some of your service with, have to understand how to work, know the security policies. And then now these are the common standard that policy adhere to. These are the standard we have DSS, PCI, which is data security standard for personal credit card. So we also have HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which deal with what? This is the kind of standard for health, hospital management, and so forth. We also have the High Tech also Act. We also have SOX, which is the Savanis or Oxley Act also. We also have ISO Group for Security Standard, which is we have iOS 27 101, 2, and so forth. We have what? Many of them. Now let's talk about what policy cover. What are the area policies what covers? Overview, which is give background information about responsibility of a particular what policy. The policy, the area the policy covers is to give you the overview, the responsibility of that policy, and also purpose, reason how to the need for the policy. Why do we need it? Why is it existing? That is purpose in creating what policy. And we also have scope. What are the areas it covers? The area this scope is going to cover. The target is it is it for staff? Is it for IT system? Is it for communication behavior? Is it for any other things related to the organization? So it has to define the scope We also have target audience. Who are the target audience? This provide information on users of the policy. Who are going to use this policy? Who are the target audience? Is it the customer? Is it the third party? Is it the staffs? Is it the executives? Is it the stakeholders? Is it the senior manager? And so forth. We also have policy. This the main section of the written document is provide definition on each features of the policy. It explain it it explain this. And then we also have definition, which is the meaning of technical terms for clarity. If there are technical terms, this is going to explain it one after the other. And we also have version also. Version number to indicate updates to policy for consistent use and application. We have version 1, version 2. The first can be version 1. We upgrade it, the policy, which will be what giving versions. Are you with me? Like in some of our textbooks, we have edition 1, edition 2, edition 3. Likewise, here also, you have to assign version to each was policy that is created. Anytime it is being upgraded, you have to what? You have to this is a revise or revision, edition, or versions. It has to have version number. Now, implementation of policy. Number one, department head like human resources, legal service play an important part in implementation of security policies of policy. Management buy-in is an absolute need for before the implementation processes. And you also have information security officer or IT security program manager who should be designed should be designated if it doesn't what exist. Their role has to what has to be designated, and security policy has to be officially the company policy as well. Has to be the official has to be officially the company policy as well, which means you have to be the one that what you will lead it, to follow it, and so on and so forth. And scan each policy and decide on the way to apply it in the organization. You have to scan it and decide how are you going to use it, when and where are we using these policies. So, and they also have policy are different from processes and procedures. Once policies is implemented, processes and procedure have to be what deliberately considered. Any questions so far? Any question? Now let's talk about review of policy. Once the policy is implemented and is used for some time in the company, the information security control needs to be audited against what the policy. If it has been used, the implemented policy has been used, it has to what to be audited. And then review has to be what has to be an ongoing process to make sure policy still meet the company need. Once it does not work meet the company need, that is when there will be another edition or versions. It has to be revised. It has to be reviewed. Now, management support for policy. Getting management support is a critical step for information security policy to be successful. You have to gain management support. You have to get it. So without that, you'll not be able to work to success, you'll not be implemented, even though you created it. And it also help in the process of what creating policies, security policies. Now we have monitors. Monitors. Number one, after policy has been implemented, it becomes a routine. It becomes business in the work. It becomes culture in the business activities every day. So review of implemented policy is required when there are organization changes, when there are changes in services, in businesses, in what, in a particular office or location, either remote, it has to be what review. Monitor tools can be used to monitor policy and violation of policy. Should have, and then it has to have policy likewise as I said before. And then violation have to be reported using tools. Now, get management support, write the policy, implement the policy, and also monitor the are the what stages we have in what in review in policy implementation. So now, some security policy exists existing in companies with their appropriate tasks are listed as follows. These are the what are the policy we have. One, access control policy, which is for information access method. How can you access this information, access control list or access control policy? How can you access this system, this building, this information, this data, the server room, and the rest? This is where this is your access control policy. We also have contingency planning policy. This is continuous availability of data. So make sure that this is the worst policy that guide availability of data. We also have data classification policy. When we are talking about data classification policy, we are talking about how data is being classified. How what they are being classified based on how valuable such assets are to the organization. Now, we also have change control policy also. There are ways to make changes on the what on the file server. This is talking about the ways to make changes on what on these are the policy, change control policy. The way for you to change file, the access, the read mode, the write mode, and the executable mode. This is what we are talking about. Either you can mitigate, either you can what you can modify it, change it, delete it, create, and so forth. And we also have wireless policy when you are getting access to a particular device wirelessly. Now, the way in which wireless infrastructure device needs to work to be configured. How do we configure our wireless router, our our devices? That is for this angle. And we also have incident response policy also. How incidents are reported and investigated in case there's any breach. This is what these are this is a particular policy for response policy. Now let's talk about termination of access policy, termination procedure of employee. Maybe a particular employee was terminated. Now the information like access to system has to be also terminated also. We also have policy for that also. We also have backup policy, which is if there's any what destruction like hurricane, like any other thing, either human based or nature based, so it has to be recovered. Like data backup method, you have to back up your data in a particular safe place, either on site or either on premises or outside on premises. We also have a virus policy dealing with viruses. How do we deal with them? How do we handle them? These are the policy for that. We also have retention policy, which is for storage method of data. Either is it a file data, video data, music data, any other data that you think that is needed. And we also have a retention. We also have physical access policy also. Physical access policy, this method to access a physical data to obtain it. This is where we're talking about the physical method of which to have access to the server room information system and so forth. We also have security awareness policy. How security awareness are carried out. So that is for this and that's what the security policy talk about. Now, like some security policy exists. So we have number 13, audit training policy. This analyze method for audit result. Maybe it is effective or not effective. This analyze method for audit result. The result, how we are going to analyze the results for the audit. This is the policy. I also have firewall policy, firewall rule, how network system can be secure, how to filter unwanted packets into your network. We also have network security policy also. This is dealing with virus attack. When there's a virus attack, how do we manage it? With the help of our network security policy, we can be able to mitigate them, deal with them, or do any other things we want to do with them. Well, number 16, which is encryption policy. Data encryption method use. Now, in this policy, we are talking about how to encrypt data, the kind of policies that surround it, the kind of information everything related to it. Let's talk about acceptable use policy. You have the PCI DSS, you have the use data, PCI personal credit card identification, which is a data security standard. You also have IPA standard also, acceptable use policy. You can also use IPA also. You can also use SOX. You can also use ISO family in this aspect. Any questions so far? No question. So let's continue. Now let's talk about the ISO 27101/2. An organization is satisfied it is if it is compliant with ISO slash IEC 2700. Is enhance the standards such as the kind standard of this uh, enhancement to these standards such as ISO slash IEC 2700 2005 ISMS 10 etc. So these are the ISOs that we have. These are the standards. These are the security policy. These are the standards we can use. These are framework. Let me say framework we can use to create policies, and then for them to certify you, you need to be using this framework. And then this area covers scope identifications, the gap analysis, the gap between the one you wanted to invent, the one you want to create, and the old one you are using. And the risk assessment also cover it. And then these are the phases. So phases of IS for implementing IS 27001. And we also have security enhancement plan. What are security enhancement plan? Which have towards stated. I also have statement of applicability. We also have awareness and training and mock assessment also. So these are the things that have to be implemented. And then we also have compliance and risk management, which is the payment card industry data security standard, which is the PCI DSS. This is another framework. We also have control objectives for information and related technology. Code base, which is for ISACA. We also have ITIL, which is ISO slash IEC 20,000 series. We also have regulation for information security. Also, we also have Saban Oxley Act. So we also have this framework also that you can use for creating policy depending on what you need. We also have committee of sponsoring organization of trade way commission. So we also have agriculture. We also have federal information security management, which is FISMA. Now let's talk about information security risk management. Information security risk management includes supervising an IT risk management program that enable a business to protect its data, intellectual property, and physical properties. This is what information security risk management does. It helps us to protect our data, intellectual property, and the physical property of the device. So these are the important benefits of implementing security risk management program in your organization. Number one, the company identify and proactively manage risk system. With this kind of policy, or let me say, mind you, risk management, we here to work to manage and to mitigate, like to identify and proactively manage your risk to the system. The kind of system you are using, it will reduce the risk, it will also mitigate them. It help us to know where you are, also help us to know your organization need also. And let's talk about now to it provide consistent steps to identify and report risks enterprise wide. It also helps that also. And number three is make sure that risks are being accepted at appropriate level of management. And we also have it ensure data is identified, classified, and suitably secured. can use the encryption for that, and classification has to be in place. Identification also has to be in place also. Now, information security risk management too. Now, these figures that are shown, these are the process and respective words guidance from the communication consultation. This you will have initial context, identify the risk, and also analyze the risk, also evaluate the risk, and also control the risk. These are the words, these are the monitors and reviews. Now, we have five important steps that implemented as part of risk of management. Talking of risk management, we are talking we also these are the five steps for you to work for you not to be done near time and speaker. These are the what five important steps that has to be what implemented. Number one, establish the context by defining the internal and external influence that have impact. Let me say direct or indirect on the implementation. Either the kind of external influence it has, the policy the risk management it has on the what on the information system. We also have identify this has to be identified afterwards by establishing a robust list of risks that can affect the implementation of the arrangement. So this is for this part. And we also have access risk also. This evaluates the list of risks against acceptance and probable impact, probability, like the kind of impact that we have if such risk, if that kind of threat is escalated. And we also have select treatment also. What are the methods for treatment for defending for response has to be also implemented also. I also have developed overall risk assessment, which is what applying each risk, applying what each risk with its mitigation and control to the overall group of similar risk. This is where this will be implemented towards the purpose, outline each risk and how we can mitigate them and how we can what, take control if they happen to take over the system. So this is our summary. This is our summary. If you have any question, you can ask me now.